Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are, you know the score by now. It is the Grain Blast with myself and the gorgeous, the glamorous, the goddess of grain, Angie Setzer. It is Wednesday, the 22nd of October, all day. I'm still trying to struggle how we've got to October, let alone the 22nd of October, but
I was
that's
actually just thinking this morning, you know what? About another 10 days, and I might just start decorating for Christmas
Oh,
because
wow.
I
Well,
need
that's,
the
you know,
joy.
we might fall out if you do it this early. But anyway, um, as usual, not just we don't just talk about Christmas decorations here. We also talk about the latest pricing flows and market moving news in grain markets. Well, Angie does. I listen very patiently, and and she kind of pats me on the head when I get something right. But before we crack on, I'll get the legals out the way, the boring legals. Nothing discussed on this podcast is trading or investment advice. There's no endorsements, nothing like that. We don't, we're not sponsored by anyone, although we would be if someone wants to chuck us a load of dollars. But that's about it, really. Angie, apart from your Christmas decorations, which we need to have a serious word about offline.
We have an intervention after this.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. What's
Yeah.
been occurring, my dear friend?
Yeah. So I ahead of this, I have One note. One note today that tells you how
Good.
much is going on in the grain market. Yeah. There are days where we have pages and there are days when we have one, and that's the day today is the one. But I mean, there is a lot going on. And I'll try to I was thinking about this ahead of time. Is of like, okay, organize your thoughts, Angela, which is what I call myself when I'm trying to get serious, and she doesn't listen. The biggest thing that we're paying attention to, and I'm going to kind of run through, I did a quick presentation yesterday at a bankers conference, which is
Oh, get you.
really, it's a trip for me, honestly. I feel like a sore thumb. I'm like Big Bird at the conference table at those, but it was an interesting thing, and I enjoyed it because I got to talk about what we're paying attention to. So I kind of figured today, let's do the sort of pull it back and look 1,000 feet view on what is going on and what is taking place. And when it comes down to it, we're working our way through harvest. Bean harvest is basically wrapped up. This has been something I've been saying for a couple weeks now. People are starting to come to this understanding. For a while, I think we were living in denial where it was like, no, there are plenty of more beans left to make their way to the market. It'll be okay. And it's not, girls. You might have widened your bid a little too much, or maybe the production was a little too light. But, looking at weekly changes in soybean basis alone, we're talking the average gain in the Eastern Corn Belt is, 10 to 15 cents. The Western Corn Belt and parts of North Dakota, you're talking gains of 10 to 25 cents a bushel. And so to me, as harvest wraps up and we're seeing this basis pop, in soybeans, it tells us a couple different things. It tells us that demand is better than the supply is providing it, or whatever, that supply is just not meeting demand as a whole. And it tells us too the demand isn't that bad. We saw the export inspections number on Monday. We shipped 54 million bushels of soybeans last week. We need to ship 32 to meet the current USDA estimate. And a lot of folks want to be like, yeah, well, we're X amount behind a year ago. We know that this year, we know that we're not going to be front loaded, first off. But, when it comes down to it, we had some back and forth yesterday. Trump was like, the deal's going to be good. And then he said, well, maybe we don't have to meet. And the market just kind of shrugged it. Like, yeah, we didn't push to new highs or whatever. And I don't think we're going to. In soybeans as a whole, I think we're still range bound until we know, are they going to have the meeting or not? And is it a productive meeting? The biggest thing that I would say while talking about soybeans in general is that we don't want China to get crazy with the cheese whiz on the buy side. Like, let's keep nurturing our rest of the world sales. Let's keep nurturing our domestic crush, and really push China. If we're pushing them real hard with the administration, let's do like 15 million metric ton and not get crazy. And I think that's what you're going to see. I think Trump saying, I'd just like them to buy what they used to buy. I think he's going to start to kind of move more towards, we really need these rare earths. How can we angle this to where, okay, we're not going to twist your arm to buy these commodities. And honestly, we don't need them to. I'm going to say that again. I don't know how many times I need to say it to get it through everyone's head, but like, the corn book is off to a complete, absolute epic record start. The soybean book is okay. Yeah, we need them to come in, but we don't need these big trade deals. And so maybe we see Trump kind of back off. We do the rare earth thing, and you just see business return to quote unquote normal. But in any event, when it comes down to it at this point, we're kind of stuck until we know more. But we do know pretty confidently right now, I can say that the crop is much smaller than currently projected. On the corn side of things, like, I'm just gonna kinda try to, like I said, 1,000-foot view of everything.
Yep.
Harvest is
Well, look, if in doubt, zoom out, right?
That's exactly it, and that's what we need to do. Because right now there's so many little intricacies that it can get confusing, and it can get burdensome, and it doesn't need to, because there's nothing really happening that's going to shock this market, at least at this point, until we either A, see something happen with China, or B, the investment crowd decides they want to buy grain. And so on the corn side of things, like, obviously we're super range bound. We've been trading 410 to 425 for quite some time. Yesterday was another day, 424 and a half was the high. Do you want to know why? It's because I have 425 orders in. And I know you can yell at me, don't put numbers in. But if it was a 424 order, we'd be trading to 423 and a half. I just have that power. I don't know what to tell you. But we do have some, we have seen it trade up a little bit, falls back, trades up a little bit, falls back. Harvest is progressing. We're probably, folks, I think the trade estimate is close to 60%, if not a little bit beyond 60%. That's further along than I would put it. But of course, my backyard, we got 3 inches of rain over the weekend. Like, we are, I think, slow. I don't know. It's a weird year. But we are seeing that the Iowa corn crop, the Illinois corn crop, they're just not what they were a year ago. I have a private, data collector person that I follow really closely, and they put out an update yesterday on overall yields and what we're seeing versus a year ago. And Illinois and Iowa are surprisingly different, surprisingly low from an overall standpoint, which not a lot of folks had expected. Basically, what they're saying is the Iowa average yield, now this is out of the reports that they receive, but they do receive, they basically, it's 225 yield reports basically throughout the year, and it gives you a general idea at the very least. And the numbers that they're seeing right now, and obviously you can't directly correlate it 1-to-1, but I think it's an indication of what we're kind of seeing boots on the ground. Iowa's average yield is seen at 15 bushel below last year. Illinois, this is for corn, Illinois' average yield is 21 bushels below last year. On the soybean side of things, Iowa's average yield is basically in line with a year ago, and in Illinois, it's 5 bushels behind a year ago. And so that is huge. That is massive. Obviously, we have Nebraska still. We have these fringe states. Indiana has had a really good, like, all of my customers out of Indiana have been pleasantly surprised. It's below last year in some spots. It's better than a year ago in others. Across Michigan, we're all below a year ago. Ohio has been below a year ago, though they have been pleasantly surprised. I feel as corn harvest really gets wrapped up and we cross into November, you could see some folks that basically were expecting this market to get violently wide and violently cheaper. So they had shorted a bunch of physical bushels expecting the crush of grain. It's not there. Like, you have commercials already. I got an email yesterday. He was like, what's going on? Why are we not seeing the flow of grain that we had a year ago? And I've said this a million times. I'm less than half of grain movement that I have to move versus a year ago, and I have more customers. There's
Wow.
just
Oh, gee. Yeah. So, like, yeah. Okay. So it's not even flatlining then in terms of what you got to shift.
Yes, it is one of those things, and we've talked about it before. A 10% reduction in overall production causes the harvest movement to drop by upwards of 50%. It's just it's math. If a farmer has 100,000 bushel of storage, and if it's a better year, he has to move 20,000 at harvest. If it's a poorer year, he might not have to move any, or only 5,000 or whatever. And that's what we're seeing this year. And so I do think you're going to see some really interesting developments. But until we break out above 425, until we see the speculative crowd really kind of come in and goose this thing, because you already have, kind of a fight of your natural buyers and your natural sellers. The farmer is selling across the scale. The end user wants to buy. I have a guy right now that keeps blowing up my text messages. He needs to get,
It's not me, everyone. Everyone, it's not me.
No, it's not right. Not this time. But no, he needs, he wants 50,000 bushel a month, November through September, and he wants to get ownership of it right away because his end users know they can make money at these current levels and they want to get ownership.
Right.
And so you are seeing a very good sign of demand and all of these other things, but you have this sort of negative sentiment and the idea that, the crop is huge, yada, yada, yada. We will know in 10 days how big this crop is. Then we can argue, until the cows come home, that the farmers increase their on-farm storage and some of these other things, and perhaps they have with grain bags. I'm trying to kind of get the math together on that. But overall, if we had the crop as big as what everyone said we were going to, and we had limited demand as bad as what the whole entire market sentiment says we do, we would not see prices as they are.
Right.
Yesterday's Korea tender, and then I'll shut up about it. But yesterday's Korea tender basically showed us the highest flat price since April with the highest basis since May.
Eesh.
Futures in April were 60 cents higher.
Oh, so so
So
again, yeah, I know we always say, but cash for so futures for show, cash for dough, right? It seems like
100%.
is it? Yeah, I'm very very new to these markets, hence why I love doing these shows with you. Hence why we came up with doing the shows because I needed to learn more about agricultural markets. To be fair,
There's a
but
method to the madness.
this isn't normal, right? The cash and the you've always said in the past that a lot you can have periods of time when cash and futures don't seem to align, but especially like since we've been talking. That's always been the case. Well, for a lot of markets, it's been the case. But it seems to be that the difference between the two seems to be getting wider and wider. Now, is this true? Am I right in saying that? And also, is this normal?
Yes, it's not normal. No, I mean it's unsustainable. Basically, and yeah, the farmer has supplies. Don't get me wrong. That's part of why you saw the market really sell off in soybeans yesterday. We traded up to what was, a 4 or 6 week high, whatever. Like it had been a minute. Like we had a lot of harvest bushels. Guys are going to have to make a decision here. Guys and gals are going to have to make a decision here in the next week when it comes to pricing, rolling on contracts if they have basis contracts and some of these other things. But yeah, basically what needs to happen now is what you're seeing. Like everyone continues to complain that there is a real lack of supply in the market pipeline. They keep blaming it on the farmer. And so really there are going to be two options here in the short term. Option one is they try to keep futures flat and they just firm spreads and they firm basis and they hope they get commercial movement. That's option one. I think they're probably going to be hard pressed for that. But typically that's why they say basis spreads then futures. And so if firming basis doesn't work, if the spreads taking away your carry doesn't work, then typically you'll see futures rally because that's the thing that convinces the farmer to sell.
Right.
And so that'll be what we'll watch. I mean, for now, basically, it's probably partly why we're capped at about that 425 level, 430 level, is you do have a lot of natural sellers in corn. And you have guys, it's a 20 under basis in places. Like you're able to sell above $4 cash corn in spots. And it's not as great in others. You might be, I haven't seen a 70 under basis in a minute. So maybe not. But, you got opportunity, but you're not going to see the farmer open the bin door really until we get up around 450 cash-ish, I think. And so honestly, that's my expectation is that we're going to work our way through the next couple of weeks of harvest. We may stay pretty rare, but then if we catch the commercial short here as we work our way into November, hold on to your butt. And lastly, there's been a lot of conversation about grains being under pressure because gold and silver have fallen. Were grains higher? Did I miss that? Did grains rally with gold?
Right, I'm glad you said it because I was like, well, last time we spoke, wheat was on its ass.
That's just it. Like, we traded a new effing lows, and we're like, "Well, grain's lower because gold and silver are down." Eat it clean. Like, what is this? Like, what?
I was
Why
like,
do
I
you
hate to
make
break it to
things
you.
up?
Hate to break it to you, but whoever said that, it's like, well, you know, precious metals have been on an absolute tear for a couple of weeks, and grain
Grains
has
have
just
done
gone.
jack shit. Like,
Grain have
let's
been
be
shrugging
honest
their
here.
shoulders and going, "Look at these maniacs."
Well, it's the same thing as people being like, "Wheat's under pressure because the dollar's higher." Really, wheat has ate shit the entire time the dollar has been weak too. Like, these things are not happening. We're just pulling shit out of the air now. Like, and I try not to be offensive.
And
Like, I'm
that's do you know
sorry.
what? But that's a massive bugbear I have when people like they should most of the time they should know better, but they see a move, they see another move in another market, and they just instantly link the two, and it's like, well, hang on, where were you last week?
Yes. And that's the thing. Like, I can understand the desire to like put a reason to it or whatever. And maybe there is some level of money flow, but let's be completely honest. If it didn't spur the market higher when it moved higher, it's probably not causing selling in the market as it moves
Exactly
lower.
that.
It's just a coincidence. Like,
Exactly.
and so that's what you'll see my eye twitch. You won't see it, but you'll just
I can feel it. I
the
can feel
headline.
it.
Like, anytime you see a headline that talks about the stronger dollar hurting grain sales, and I said it on TV one time, I was like, no one ever talks to me about the weaker dollar spurring it. No one
Yeah,
ever says
right. Well, wait, and she's never been invited back on that show since.
yes, that is true. Most of the time they're like, that girl is a little too outspoken for our desire. Let's get her off
I
the
gotta be
air.
very
But
honest.
like,
I always, when I see PIQ post, or even not just post on the X, but when I see a Reuters headline or whatever go through on the PIQ app and whatnot, and if it's about grain markets, I always grimace, go, I really hope Angie doesn't see this.
Oh, I see it. I just understand now that I can't shoot the messenger. I can
Well,
just
I appreciate you for that.
glitch for a minute, but yeah. So I mean, we'll see how things develop. We've got what Basent is in the trade team are heading to Malaysia. Is that where they're meeting this time? Is Malaysia?
I can't remember, to be honest.
Not
I know I
100%
did
sure.
see, yeah, Gear. It's funny enough, I've just seen it on Reuters now. USTR's Greer Treasury's Besant heading to Malaysia for talks with Chinese counterparts. There we go.
Yeah, so they're on their way. We'll see how it goes. This is supposed to lay the groundwork for next week's meeting. They did bring FSA back for CCC. So this is PLC and AR and ARC. How do you like that for acronyms?
Do you know
I'm
what?
not
I was loving that. I was about to say
That's
DISCO.
right. Just to come up with it's like Elmo over here. But we are going to see the FSA office open, which will be helpful. You were going to see some folks on the cusp of maybe having to make some selling decisions to generate cash. And now we won't necessarily have to worry about that as much because they can access lower interest loans through the FSA. This is not a new program. This has been around, I think, since the 80s. I'm not 100% sure, but they can access cash for the grain that's in the bin. And so you did have some folks that were maybe kind of struggling with that cash flow and might have to make grain sales. With the FSA office opening up tomorrow, they'll be able to go and do that. Or if they had a grain loan, like I had a customer that has a wheat loan through CCC, they couldn't get the grain settled from the wheat mill because the wheat mill has to pay the portion of the grain that's owed. We can talk through that someday if you're ever bored and need to go to sleep.
There's a quiz at
But
the end.
right. But now he can get paid. Like, so it will be one of those things where the $3 billion is not new aid. I want to clarify that first off. And, secondly, it'll just kind of help farmers with that stretch of cash flow if needed.
Got
And so
you.
that's it. We've been on the air now for 18 minutes. I failed at the quick
No,
update.
you did not talk about it's been value. It's been value. And as I keep saying, as long as we're offering value, well, to be honest, as
It's
long as
not
me and you
bad
are
for
having, to be honest, it's not even about the value. As long as me and you are having fun, I couldn't give a shit how long
that's
this
where
thing's
I'm
going
at.
for.
Yeah, heck with everyone else. But
That's,
it's not bad for one bullet point, I guess.
well, yeah, right. Tune in tomorrow when we got 5.
So yeah, I'm done now.
Wonderful. Well, Angie, thank you so much as always. You know how much I love talking to you. And listeners, thank you so much as always. And we love how much you listen. Whatever you're doing, stay safe, keep it tight, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Much love.
Have a good one, guys.